Welcome back, True Seeker. It is early October 21st, 2019, at least out here in the West Coast, United States. And I just saw this film, Glass. And if you've seen this film, you probably know what I'm going to say. And if you've seen this film and you didn't notice what I'm about to say, you got to pay more attention next time you watch a movie. But check this out. About 66 minutes and some seconds into the film, this plan is revealed. They show you this magazine cover. Osaka Tower, a true marvel, opens December 7th. And you look at the buildings that are shining out, standing out. Two towers, right? And then opens December 7th. Osaka Tower, Osaka, Japan, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, Japan, Hawaii, World War II, Two Towers, 9/11, endless war in the Middle East. And the date, December 7th, that's the date of Pearl Harbor Day. And think about September 11th. What were the three buildings that fell that day? The third fell 8 hours later and was prematurely announced by news networks such as the BBC. They reported that it had fallen down before it actually fell down. It wasn't hit by a plane, had minimal structural damage, and the building collapsed like a perfect demolition, a lot like the first two buildings. Those buildings were 1, 2, and 7. Those are the three buildings that fell on 9/11. 1, 2, 7. Like the date December 7th, 12/7, 127. 127 is the 31st prime number, 31 is the 11th prime number. Think about 9/11 and 11. The first plane was AA11. A is the first letter. AA1111. Into the buildings that look like giant 11s. In New York, the 11th state in order of statehood. The World Trade Centers look like 11s. In numerology, 11 is the master number. You know, the master plan. In this film, Glass, which came out on January 18th, 2019, there's so many different important things that are said in the film. If you're paying attention, if you're in woke mode, I don't like that word woke, but so many people use it. If you're really paying attention as you watch this film, there's so many things that are discussed. One of which, suicide missions. While they're giving you this plan, the plan in the film is for the main villain, Mr. Glass, to knock these buildings to the ground in a terrorist attack. He says he's going to use the chemical lab that exists within the building to make it happen. So the plan of the film is to destroy these buildings, terrorist attack, to change the world, to shape humanity. He wants to help humanity find its potential. He thinks humanity's underachieving this act of destruction. It's gonna spark what needs to happen for the revolution. And just think about it. When September 11th, 2001 happened, it was referred to as the new Pearl Harbor. And remember, many of the members of the Bush administration, just before they became the Bush administration, they were part of a political think tank called Project for a New American Century, PNAC, and they wrote a document calling for a new Pearl Harbor to catapult a military agenda in the Middle East. A new Pearl Harbor they called for. Do you remember what movie came out the summer before September 11th with Ben Affleck? The Love World War II movie, Pearl Harbor. I'll show you something about that film here. Right here, I'll show you this. Pearl Harbor released May 25th, 2001, and September 11th happened 110 days later. The World Trade Centers were 110 stories tall. The attack was blamed on Osama bin Laden. The buildings were financed by the Rockefeller family. Look into the history of the World Trade Centers. Nobody wanted them built. There were already vacancies in the city. People couldn't get, cover their rents. It was a bad time for landlords. Why would they want more real estate space when there was already so many vacancies? But the Rockefellers wanted it. There's a lot to say about September 11th. If you haven't read my book, there's a very long chapter on September 11th by the numbers. How long it was planned in advance, why things happened the year they happened. Again, why in 1968 did 911 become the national dialing code, World Trade Center construction start, and George W. Bush graduate from Yale and Skull and Bones, who'd be the president when 9/11 happened. And then 2001 A Space Odyssey came out, a movie about technology overtaking man. The New York Jets, that was their Super Bowl season, the 1968 season, winning the Super Bowl in the beginning of 1969. The New York Jets ended Drew Bledsoe's career, created Tom Brady's career, the Patriot Act, 9/11. Anyway, what's weird is if a home team won Monday Night Football this week, home teams would be 6-8 for the week, and the Jets and Patriots are playing each other. I'm not saying the Jets are going to upset the Patriots, but just keep that in mind. 6-8 like 68. And don't forget, Tom Brady had 911 passing yards after week 3 this season, after he finished his game against the Jets. 911 yards. Look it up. It's a fact. The media said, what a coincidence. And we documented it. So we got the stats. It's all there for the historical archive. Anyway, this film, a terrorist plot to take down the 2 towers, the Osaka Towers, opening December 7th. Suicide mission, a reason to do it, to change the world. Think about it, a project for a new American century. At the beginning of their new American century, they need a new Pearl Harbor to start an agenda of foreign wars. And this is all for military, business, resource, strategic purposes. Some people sit back and go, well, I'm glad I live in the country that they prioritize. That's not the right way to think about this. Eventually, for the person out there who thinks that way, like, well, I don't live in the Middle East, and even if this is what's going on, I got to go to work tomorrow. You got to realize this goes on more and more over time. It's only going to spread to more places. And really, it already is impacting you. You got to think about all the young people that go over and serve in these wars and lose their mind and come back and create chaos in society. A lot of families have to deal with that. So anyway. But yeah, this is a mockery, right? This is a mockery. So let's take it from the top. We established how this movie, it put in your face this September 11th, 2001 riddle. Especially if you know history. New Pearl Harbor. I mean, go to the bookstore or just go to Amazon and type in New Pearl Harbor. You'll see you'll see. Read about the project for a new American century. It's all being put in front of our face. The movie Pearl Harbor just before 9/11. PNAC, just all this stuff. It's undeniable. Government, media. Before we go on, it's just like the knowledge I put out, it's for people who already see what's going on. Like how, what they're putting in popular culture is the same thing they're interjecting in politics, and they're mixing narratives, and you even see how they sync up the sports game with it, like 9/11, Patriots, Patriot Act, even more complicated stuff, stuff that's written about in my book. It's just like, if you get that, this is where this knowledge comes in that I teach, and realize I'm not the source. I learned about this in a book written by a Freemason, Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. He didn't give much about it. He just shed a little light on it, and I took what he gave, because he suggests using it. He says you might find, interesting things. And right when I started to put it to work, I was like, oh my God, people are using this. And we've just been documenting the relevance of it ever since. And you can do this with so many Hollywood movies, I just did an interview yesterday off the cuff. I came up with a couple movies I've talked about just in the last few months. And realized I don't watch a lot of movies. But I realized they put a lot of stuff in these comic book movies that relate to what's really going on in the world. So I had to make a point to see this movie, especially when I heard it was the sequel to Unbreakable, which was an interesting movie that came out just before September 11th too. But check this out. I'm going to ignore the whole piece about 118, January 18th. There's a hit show, 911. It's set around Fire Station 118. We've been talking a lot about 118, and maybe I'll come back to it at the end. But just for now, understand 118 is a number associated with death. And in this film, there's a mass plot of death that's stopped. And it's set in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is 118. And if you followed the work we did over Tisha B'Av weekend, you got similar shooting stories. 4 shot in Philadelphia late at night and 4 shot in San Francisco. Again, these cities that have a historical relationship. The Liberty Bell was in San Francisco for a while. They've exchanged a lot of sports teams. The Athletics were once in Philadelphia. Now they're the Oakland Athletics. The Warriors were once in Philadelphia. They were the Philadelphia Warriors. And there's a few other things I'm forgetting. John Gruden started out his coaching career in Philadelphia. John Gruden lost by the numbers today. Anyway, January 18th, 118, right? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 118. Philadelphia was in San Francisco this year, and they honored the 1989 World Series earthquake game that day. It was the 223rd day of the year. Natural disaster equals 223. Again, like how Warren Buffett put out his letter about a coming natural disaster that's going to shift the global economy, and he put it out on February 23rd. 223, natural disaster 223. You never seen my work on the 1989 World Series earthquake? I just talked about it 2 days ago in the video about the CNN article on July 4th. So be sure to search my YouTube videos. But anyway, check this out. In the film, they say it's 19 years later. Here we are in 2019 when the film comes out. Remember, the word chaos equals 19. The agenda of the powers that shouldn't be is order out of chaos. So this film, it came out January 18th, 2019, a date with 58 numerology. The villain is Glass. He's the man who's going to blow up the buildings. Notice Glass is 58. And again, he's a secretive supervillain. Secret society equals 58. So does Freemasonry. So does Rosicrucian. So does Solomon's Temple. What do these things have to do with each other? Herod's Temple equals 58 as well. This is what these things have to do with each other. In Judaism, there's a holiday, Tisha B'Av. This year it fell on August 10th and August 11th, the day Jeffrey Epstein died, the day of the mosque shooting in Oslo, the day Temple Mount was attacked with tear gas, the day the Hong Kong riots went in full police state mode for a national news audience, which there's a lot more to say about. The headlines out of August 11th Hong Kong were Remember HK 811. H is 8, K is 11. Anyway, a lot went down on Tisha B'Av weekend. And we were watching Temple Mount. Because Temple Mount, when the Knights Templar secured Jerusalem during the Crusades, they referred to it as Solomon's Temple. And Solomon's Temple is what the secrets of Freemasonry are based in. Solomon's Temple, very much studied by the Freemasons, very much central to their beliefs and their rituals. And the Rosicrucians came before the Freemasons. King James was a Freemason and a Rosicrucian, who the King James Bible is named after. He died unexpectedly at age 58. Special number to these people, just not some arbitrary number. It's a number that has a lot of meaning to Freemasonry. But with regards to 9/11, if you write out Tisha B'Av in Jewish gematria, it equals 911. Here, I'll just show you real quick so you don't have to take my word for it. This cipher that's very important, known as Jewish gematria, if you write out Tisha B'Av, which is the day to remember the destruction of Solomon's and Herod's temple, remembered each year in Judaism for a 2-day period. Tisha B'Av is 911. Now think about how it's to remember the destruction of 2 temples. Now think about 2 towers. And don't ever forget the dancing Israelis on September 11th. Jerusalem also equals 58. There's a verse in the Bible about a plot in Jerusalem, and that verse is 11:9. Anyway, this year on August 11th, another 118 date, that's the date that this location was attacked, right? And again, this film came out on January 18th, and it relates to September 11th, which relates to Tisha B'Av, which relates to Solomon's Temple. And following this movie in the same year on August 11th, it's the day it was attacked with tear gas. And obviously that's not as devastating as September 11th, but it's very cruel. This was a special holy day on the Muslim calendar as well, the day of sacrifice, and hit with tear gas by Israeli police. Talk about trying to create a divide. You have to think about how these stories spread through the people who live in that region of the world and are Islamic. Oh wow, we were attacked on our holy site on one of our most holy days with tear gas by the Israeli police. I mean, these are the type of events that are meant to instill division in people. And for some people, they're able to just say, I'm not going to, no one's going to cast any hatred in my heart. I'm just going to march on as I do. But some people, they feel like they're being stomped on. And that's also why there's divides in humanity, right? Because people act entirely different to information. But this is why they do it. They keep giving to society those type of events. Eventually, more and more people get provoked. Maybe the person who just, goes on about their life at first, after it happens 3 or 4 times, they have a different feeling about it. But again, Freemasonry, secret societies, very much into symbolism, occult knowledge. Freemasonry is based in Kabbalah, where this whole practice of letters and numbers comes from. Kabbalah says God created the world with letters, numbers, words. And that's why they do this. So, in Freemasonry, to get your first 3 degrees, you have to do the 3 tracing boards that are all based in Solomon's Temple. And there's a whole lot more to this 58 thing, too. If you read my book, it's probably somewhere in the first 50 pages, cover the relevance of 58. There's meaning to these numbers. It's a lot to explain, and especially over and over in every single video. But coming back to this, in December 7th in Osaka Tower, where we began the plot to destroy these 2 towers, like September 11th, which was referred to as the New Pearl Harbor, which was blamed on Japan, like Osaka, and happened on December 7th. Where we began, 127, Bavarian Illuminati equals 127, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 127. And again, the Bavarian Illuminati infiltrated Freemasonry and spread through as many lodges as it possibly could, with this plan of changing humanity. And the historical narrative is that they were pretty much the opposition to the Jesuits, because the Jesuits had a stranglehold on most things. Think about, how once upon a time, Washington, D.C., between Virginia and Maryland, like Virgin Mary, was controlled as part of the Catholic colony. It was the Catholic colony before it was all Washington, D.C. and that. And then, that's why you have the Jesuit universities there, Georgetown. So, once upon a time it was that, and now you have the Scottish Rite headquarters there, and the more modern name Washington, D.C., named after a Scottish Rite Freemason. And you start to think about it, it's like, okay, so the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry existed. A man who was a Mason comes along, Adam Weishaupt, whose name equals 51. He starts his secret society on 5-1 with people, and they have a plan to essentially hijack Freemasonry and use its network to achieve their plan, which is a little bit different apparently. Seemingly more opposed to the Jesuits than maybe the Scottish Rite were. Again, you're trying to understand the history of secret society, so pieces are missing, but you can start to think about it. Okay, he knows the language of letters and numbers. He goes, I'm going to create a society with a name that fits hijacking this already powerful network. I think this is why Bavarian Illuminati was the name chosen. To take over the Scottish Rite. Because I think that's essentially what Freemasonry is now. It's like, it's not what it was supposed to be. From what I understand. But even before it was hijacked, I'm not saying it was a good thing. It doesn't seem like it was right to me. The people who created this nation, they mostly were Scottish Rite Freemasons. It's George Washington who wrote the letter saying he believed it was being infiltrated by the Illuminati. Look at their values. It's not like their values were perfect either. But doesn't mean it couldn't have gone even more sinister, because you look at the world we live in now with stuff like this, with movies that just mock our reality, and then, the same news networks that'll advertise those movies where it puts the truth in front of your face. You have to watch the news broadcast where they call you names and say, oh, people who question 9/11, and, they associate it with all sorts of terrible things, And they describe people like us like we're crazy. If I went on Anderson Cooper and said, Anderson Cooper, come on, man, you are a reporter, so I know you know what I know because I learned what I know from the mainstream media, which you reported. You had New Pearl Harbor, 9/11, you even had like a special hour-long news broadcast that people don't watch on Friday night about things like dancing Israelis, and, That shows you when the best news pieces are out in the mainstream. Friday night, when they know everybody's out getting wasted, they're like, this is the night we'll put out something that's actually worthwhile when, 50 people are watching. But, anyway, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? You get mocked in these movies and these TV shows, and then the same news networks, mainstream networks that advertise it, when the conversation comes up, they always make fun of and demonize the person who questions 9/11. Like there's something wrong with that person. And notice how they do that in a lot of these mass shooting stories. If anyone reads the story, they'll usually have a sentence in there, he smoked marijuana. He believed in 9/11 conspiracy theories. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God. Maybe some people need to smoke some marijuana because it might set off a light bulb, Anyway, check this out. If you're new here, 4 base ciphers. Mr. Glass, right? He's the villain that's going to blow up the towers to change humanity, to help it reach its potential. 4 base ciphers. Alphabetic order. We talked about the 58. The alphabetic order with the rules numerology. 13. Like 13 families to start the Bavarian Illuminati. 77. Secret society equals 58 and 77. This cipher is the alphabetic order. This one's the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So for example, in both of these ciphers, the green one and the blue one, G is the 7th letter, G is 7 here, and G is 7 here. English ordinal G7, full reduction G7. But the next letter, L, this is where it changes. In this cipher, L's the 12th letter. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to L, the 12th letter is 12. You're just labeling the letters in order with numbers, right? Counting up 1 to 26. Z is the 26th letter. The next cipher, numerology. So 7 is 7 in numerology. Numerology is about making numbers that are more than 1 digit into just 1 digit. So L, 12, you write it like a math equation. 12 is 1 plus 2 equals 3. So L is 3. The next letter, M, the 13th letter. 1 plus 3 is 4. N, the 14th letter. 1 plus 4 is 5. So on, right? So L is 3 in this cipher. That's why the value's 13 and this one's 58. And with these first 2 ciphers, I used to do this by hand, write this stuff out, these 2 ciphers. This is what I learned about in the Manly P. Hall book. And that's how I memorized all the letters. I don't need the calculator to do the calculations. I didn't need it before I even found out calculators existed online because I was writing it all down, so I memorized it pretty quick just by writing it out. I wrote out all 50 states with these first 2 ciphers. They were the first 2 I learned. And by the time I did the 50 states, I remembered what each letter was in both ciphers. Just writing out in pen and paper. And it's been great because ever since then, driving like on road trips, I'll always laugh at like when it says the town name and how many miles it is, because so often it'll be that distance, and that's where the multiple ciphers come in too, right? It might say some town name that equals 77 and 58. You might drive past that road the next time. You might be like, oh my God, did you notice there's a sign for that town at 77 miles and then 58 miles? All over the place, it's like this. It's crazy. And you realize, because I used to wonder before I knew this knowledge, I was like, how do they decide where to put the road signs? How are they choosing these numbers? Like, it's not like every 70 miles or, every 50 miles or 20 or 10. It's like, when you pay attention to the distance, you're like, and then when you learn this, you're like, oh my God, this is what they're doing. It's Freemasonry. Freemasonry are the builders, right? Plus they got the secret knowledge. Once upon a time, they were more the builders. But with the reverse alphabetic order, Secret Society, 77. Very special one, 77. Power, 77. Washington, D.C., is known as the American Meridian. It's the 77th meridian. United States equals 77. Again, Secret Society, 77. If you write out September 11th as words, it's 77. If you write out World Trade Center as words, it's 77. Remember, Flight 77 on September 11th, they say it took off at 8:20 and crashed at 9:37. Flight 77 crashed 77 minutes later. It hit the Pentagon on the 77th meridian. The Pentagon's 77 feet and a few inches tall. And don't do a Google search and be like, no, it says 71. Google literally changed their search at the beginning of 2019 when I had some videos go get, a few 100,000 views, talking a lot about 9/11 and what the media was coding on September 11, 2018, the anniversary more than a year ago, and how they were coding the number 118. So anyway, that was the 118 piece we kind of skipped over earlier. I've done so much work on 118 since September 11th, 2018, when the news started to code out this number. And now you see how in this movie, they bring together a 9/11 concept, releases on a 118 date. You just had the Temple event on August 11th. The day before that, you had a mosque shooting in Oslo. The gematria of that mosque equaled 118. It was synced up with the mosque shootings on March 15th, where they said the shooter was inspired by the Oslo bomber Anders Breivik. Of course, Oslo goes back to Jerusalem, like Temple's Mount, the Oslo Accords. And then just on October 18th, 10118, you just had a mosque explosion in Afghanistan. And they said 62 people died. We'll talk about that at the end of this. But yeah, when I first learned this, I just knew this cipher and this cipher, the ones on the two. And then actually the third cipher I learned was Jewish gematria. And then I learned the reverse ciphers after studying these three ciphers for a few years. So I got 3 years to look at these alone. That's how when I came across reverse gematria, I realized it was relevant. I was like, wow, a lot of stuff is coded with both ciphers. And just look at, I always thought it was cool that gavel and judge and obey, when I first began, because I just knew these first two ciphers, right? I always thought how it was cool how those words were all the same, because you have to obey the judge in court when they bang the gavel, or they can hold you in contempt and have the, officers of their court haul you back to jail so you can get some more fines and some more court time and work up some more bills for the system, all because you didn't listen to the person who thinks they know it all in the black gown. Those people can really fuck up people's lives. And see, we allow this shit in our society, to even allow things like our criminal justice system, which is run by criminals. That's how they maintain modern slavery. That's why they build more prisons than schools, because they know that, bought-off judges can help, send lots of people who don't need to be living in a cage. Anyway, getting off topic, but these topics are actually even more important than the way they encode these films with numbers. This guy's name's Glass. In the last cipher, the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, it sums to 32. So does Scottish. So does America. 7, 4, 1776. Added up, 7 plus 4 plus 1 plus 7 plus 7 plus 6 is 32. Like America. And what's the most pure cipher, which is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. This point I was going to make about obey, judge, and gavel. Notice how judge and gavel are the exact same, forwards and backwards, all 4 ciphers. And again, these numbers are huge. The first Supreme Court justice under Trump equals 47 and 88. Here, I'll just show you. I got the calculator right here. Trump's 47 and 88. The first Supreme Court justice under Trump was Neil McGill Gorsuch, who was sworn in April 7th, 4-7, confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. His name is Neil McGill Gorsuch. Whoops, got an extra U in there. Notice it's 88. Like how Judge and Gavel's 88, like how Trump's 88, the Republican Party's 88. And the 187, I mean, this stuff's so coded out. Washington, D.C.'s 187. George Washington. If I can type. I can't type. George Washington's 187. It's also 88. These numbers are relevant, you know. So. Oh yeah, and to bring it back to Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, you got to know this one. Ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 187. Donald Trump had his GOP convention start 18/7, July 18th, span of 187 days from Inauguration Day. So, those cover our 4 ciphers of the name Glass. Again, the villain who wants to blow up the Osaka Tower opening December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, where 9/11, where 2 buildings were destroyed like this, like Glass wants to blow up. Glass buildings, glass. Anyway, this whole new Pearl Harbor mockery in this film. Osaka Tower, the name, look at this. Remember September 11th, they say it lasted an hour and 42 minutes, or another way to say it is 102. An hour and 42 or 102. And Al-Qaeda in Jewish gematria is 102. Blamed on Al-Qaeda. Notice Osaka Tower is 142 like terrorist. And they code this number a lot in their terrorist propaganda. Especially when you're getting those headlines about a man was yelling Allahu Akbar and then he shot up a group of people, or he yelled Allahu Akbar and then he detonated a bomb. Again and again, these same numbers coded. And, by the way, Bruce Willis is in this film, Glass. Bruce Willis, Samuel Jackson, and then an actor I'm not real familiar with. He has to play quite the character, though. James McAvoy. Again, if he's super famous, I don't watch a lot of movies, so maybe I've seen him somewhere, but I wasn't familiar. Anyway, Bruce Willis. When September 11th happened, myself included, my first thought when I saw the news footage of September 11th, I was 18 years old at the time. Just started college. Got woke up by my new roommate freaking out. First time I ever had a man on top of me shaking me, telling me I needed to get up. And I was like, what is going on? He's telling me to look at the TV and I'm thinking he's showing me like a rerun of Die Hard. Must be TNT and Die Hard's on. You know? So Bruce Willis was in Die Hard, just like he was in Unbreakable, and this movie Glass is a sequel to Unbreakable. And I had to go back and look at what day Unbreakable released, and it was November 22nd, another fateful day. The Kennedy assassination, November 22nd, 1963. And that happened in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, named after a Scottish Rite Freemason. And check this out. With regards to the 118 thing, Dallas, Texas is 118. See, my camera froze. In Jewish gematria, again, death is 118. Homicide is 118. And JFK was killed on the 187th year of the nation's existence. What's a trip is, with the alphabetic order, JFK assassination's 187, right? It's also 110 like president, It's also not too far off from those key numbers we were looking at, 127 in Jewish gematria. I've never noticed that before. It's kind of tripping me out. But there is a cipher where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6. So A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, D is 24, E is 30, so on. JFK assassination in that cipher is 11/22. Like the date he was shot, 11/22, November 22nd, in the 187th year of the nation's existence. And remember that the name's Kennedy's 33. 33 in the most pure cipher, like masonry, like secrecy, like order. And just for a little more, Massachusetts, where the Kennedy family's from, is 33. There's only 2 other states in the most pure cipher that's under 33. One is Delaware, which is the first state. Delaware was also established on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, what we now know it as, on a date with 33 numerology. And the last state is the other one, Hawaii, the 50th and final. So the first, the 50th, and the 6th states are the ones that sum to 33. And if you run the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology, you can add on one more state out of the 50 to that list. It's New York. Probably noticing the New York 666 connection. It's a whole nother topic. That's what that verse in the Bible is about, Revelation 13:18. Here was wisdom calculating the number of the beast. This is how you expose the beast system. This is how the beast system works. And as we talked about earlier, again, even before 9/11, they released the film Pearl Harbor 110 days before September 11th. The buildings 1 and 2 in New York City were 110 stories tall. They blamed it on Osama bin Laden 110. The buildings were proposed and largely financed by the Rockefeller family. Who are the Rockefeller family, really? And one last point about this. I had to go back and look from the release of Unbreakable, which was November 22nd, 2000. I thought it was interesting that Unbreakable in Manhattan had this connection. And I wondered, from November 22nd, 11/22, the master numbers, 11, the master number, 22, the master builder number, 11 plus 22, 33. Remember, everything for 9/11 got rolling in 1968, 33 years before 2001. 911 was made the National Emergency Dialing Code February 16th, 1968 by AT&T. World Trade Center construction began in August. And George W. Bush graduated again from Yale and Skull and Bones. 2001: A Space Odyssey came out, the New York Jets, all that stuff again. But notice, from Unbreakable to September 11th was 293 days. And again, this matters because the film Glass is the sequel to Unbreakable. 293 is the 62nd prime number. Sacrifice equals 62. And the word Mason's also 62. And this number gets used again and again for ritual sacrifice. Just today in the news, the day I'm presenting this, just before the 115th World Series will kick off, you get the death of this MLB umpire unexpectedly. He just worked in the MLB postseason and he just dropped dead unexpectedly. He died. Today happens to be October 20th, the 293rd day of the year, which is also kind of tripping me out that I'm seeing this and then realizing this. But anyway, I just saw this movie today, and this just happened today. But today's the 293rd day of the year, the 62nd prime number. Sacrifice is 62. This man's name is Eric Cooper, 62. And he was just working. And now he just dies unexpectedly. You know. And there's a few other interesting things about this umpire. He's from Iowa, like the Astros manager, A.J. Hinch. They're both from Iowa. And his full name is Eric Richard Cooper, which sums to 105, like Nationals. He was an umpire, 82. Washington Nationals, 82. The Nationals are 8-2 right now in the postseason. Again, they gave the Cardinals their 77th loss of the season on the day, leaving 77 days left of the year in Washington, D.C. We've been talking about all the rituals on Patreon since just before the postseason began. with the Astros, the Nationals, and Skull and Bones. That's why we said it was worth a bet on an Astros-Nationals World Series just before the postseason got underway. This man's name, Eric Cooper, is also 107 like Washington Nationals, also like Ritual Sacrifice. He died on his 307th day of his age, the 63rd prime. Major League 63. Major League Baseball 63. We just saw these numbers in the Super Bowl last year, Super Bowl 53. Tom Brady's 307th career game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which equals 307. He won it, becoming 6-3 in Super Bowls like 63. Okay, just want to make sure we're still online. But sacrifice. I've done so many videos. You know, I wrote so much in my book about sacrifice in 62. And that's what it was on September 11th. Those buildings were built to be sacrificed for this world agenda, for this project for a new American century, you know, to steer humanity towards somebody else's purpose, which seemingly is one to tolerate war, you know, not even talk about war, worry more about water cooler talk, having fun, going to the ball game, going out to the movie, enjoying an ice cream cone, watching a sitcom, making a few clicks, ordering something you don't need off Amazon. Because if you're not down with that, then you're probably not medicated, right? So it's the other thing going on with humanity. Everybody's on pills. But yeah, this just happened today. It's just, you know, when you realize these numbers, you see what's really going on. Man just unexpectedly dies. And by the way, another one today in the world of sports. Look this up. Nancy Pelosi's brother, who just died. He was the 43rd mayor of Baltimore, right? The 43rd mayor of Baltimore. Infamous number there, 43, especially if you know my work on the election of number 43, George W. Bush, which came down to Florida, which equals 43, where his brother was the 43rd governor and his father was once the 43rd vice president. Anyway, the 43rd mayor of Baltimore dies today by the numbers. Put out a video on this earlier. And Baltimore goes on to beat the Seattle Seahawks' ass in their own building. Statement game. I was wrong about this one, by the way, today. 7-3 for the day. Got 2 of the afternoon games wrong. But I didn't point out that if the Seahawks lost, Russell Wilson would get his 38th loss. It was possible because Ravens is 38. But check this out. Had Pete Carroll won, Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seahawks, he would have got his 95th win with the Seahawks, right? Baltimore's 95. And he would have got his 128th win all time as a coach. And Maryland's also 128. And sometimes there's riddles that are that amazing and they don't come through. And then it always makes you scratch your head. And then all I can say is, well, I made that prediction earlier in the week. And the morning of the game, the 43rd mayor dies. And for the length of the fourth quarter, Seattle Seahawks, the game was at 43 points. By the way, the Seahawks, they won their only Super Bowl scoring 43 points. And that was Super Bowl 48. Started with a safety through the back of the end zone. The most well-rehearsed team in the Super Bowl. They start the game by hiking the ball through the back of the end zone on the big stage. That's the WWE mockery right there. Just like how they used the WWE in 1989, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage to give you the predictive programming in 9/11 that they weren't going to stop until the Twin Towers came crumbling down. You got to look up that skit. There's a whole lot more to it. But I think I hit all the main points. It's late Truth Seeker. I'm going to have to wait until it's after 1:13 to sign off, though. That's a special number. Scottish is 113. They opened up the new World Trade Center buildings. One World Trade Center on November 3rd. Was it in 2014 or 13 or 12? That's crazy. I've lost track of time. I've been doing this since before they opened those buildings, but I forget what year it happened in now. I know the date was November 3rd, though. And by the way, check this out. One World Trade Center. If you didn't know this before. One World Trade Center, if I can type right. And the most pure cipher is 93, right? 93. Think about the 93 World Trade Center bombing. That came after Bill Clinton took office, February 26th, 1993. Bill Clinton, he wasn't born Bill Clinton, he was born Bill Blythe. His biological father was found dead on the side of the road in water, and the police said it looked like he might have tripped and drowned. And they said no foul play. Father in good health just found dead on the side of the road. Police say no foul play. And his mom ends up marrying into the powerful Clinton political dynasty out of New York. Hillary became senator there. But his father died on May 17th, 1946. 137th day of the year. Government Authority 137, Washington, D.C. 137, Kabbalah in Hebrew 137, Morals and Dogma 137, the Freemasonry book that praises Kabbalah. It's got a statue in D.C. Anyway, One World Trade Center 93. Just think about this. Atomic bomb equals 93, right? And here's the point. The Manhattan Project, right? The World Trade Center's in Manhattan. The only definition for ground zero once upon a time was the point above or below ground where an atomic bomb explodes. And Manhattan Project, atomic bomb, 93. In 1993, that's when Bill Clinton signed the act stopping underground weapons testing programs that had existed to test atomic and nuclear bombs. So he stops this in 93. You got the 93 World Trade Center bombing. And who did they blame the 93 World Trade Center bombing on? Was it the Blind Sheik? If you didn't know that, look it up. Blind Sheik is 93. You see how it's 48 177 too? Look at propaganda. You know, the Blind Sheik often shown with a Santa Claus stocking cap on. Santa Claus equals 666 like New York. And if you doubt that, I mean, have you ever considered that Santa is a reshuffling of Satan? Santa Claus? Again, if a word sums to 111 in the alphabetic order, it's just times 6. So Santa Claus is 666. New York, 666. But yeah, just wanted to make sure I was thorough. Let me see what's up with the chat real quick. I see somebody saying good night. Have a good night. It is late. I had to laugh at somebody's use of the word woke. Oh, here, I'll make the greater point about ground zero. The World Trade Center coordinates. They were on the 74th meridian west. See this? The 74th meridian west. And special number to these people. My book on gematria with the alphabetic order, equals 74. My book on, here, let's just get rid of all the ciphers. Let's get rid of all the ciphers except for the alphabetic order. As simple as it gets. In case you didn't know this, what this cipher is really called, the real name of this cipher is Simple 74, English 74, Gematria 74, or Gematria. And again, this practice is important to the Masons because it comes from Kabbalah, and Masonry is based in Kabbalah. Masonic 74, Occult 74, Jewish is 74. Kabbalah is mostly Jewish mysticism. So the World Trade Center is on the 74th meridian, right? And they called it ground zero. The definition of ground zero prior to 9/11 was the point above or below ground where an atomic or nuclear weapon explodes. Energy equals 74. Weapon equals 74. Nuclear equals 74. A lot of the testing for nuclear weapons was done in New Mexico, which is the 47th state, the reflection, and a lot was also done in Nevada, one of two states that sums to 47 with the alphabetic order. The only state of the 50 states that sums to 74 with the alphabetic order is Oregon. And when I first began doing this research, I decided to test things like that because I noticed when I was decoding things, certain numbers were coming up a ton, like 74. I was like, man, 74 is everywhere. Holidays 74, Independence Day 74, July 4th. So I was making all these observations, and I decided, I was like, well, a good test might be to decode the 50 state names to see how often. I was wondering if 74 might come up, 30 times. But to my surprise, when I first did it, when I first wrote it all out and double checked it, because when I first did it, I had to do everything. I didn't have a calculator, so I had to make sure everything was accurate. But I was amazed that only one state summed to 74 after how many observances I'd made of it, just like testing. And it was the 33rd state. And I was like, look at that. The 33rd state sums to 74. And I'd realized things like Masonic and English and gematria and occult and all that. And noticed it was 74. So I was like, something is definitely going on here. Holiday, Independence Day. I was like, wow, only the 33rd state. And for anyone who doubts it, do it by pen and paper, or then just come here and type in all 50 states. I mean, you can type in all 50 states pretty fast. I guarantee you, out of the 50 states, only one sums to 74 using the alphabetic order. The most simple cipher, the 33rd. And case in point with Oregon, you just got the story of the footage released October 18th of the Oregon high school situation where a athlete coach disarmed a student of a shotgun. And they put out a little video clip that didn't really prove anything. You couldn't even see the handing over of the gun. The teacher already had it. And anyway, that clip was released on October 18th, the day leaving 74 days left in the year. Insert websites for this headline. All right, hold on. 74th shooting since Sandy Hook. Let's see. It'll come up as the shooting in Oregon from 2014. Here it is. There have been 74 U.S. school shootings since Sandy Hook. This one was in Reynolds High School in Troutdale, Oregon. Again, Oregon, the only state that sums to 74. And just for kicks, when I first decoded this, I wasn't very good at decoding back then. The story was in 2014. I'd only been doing this work for about a year when it happened. 81 ritual, 99's number of the Bavarian Illuminati, established May 1st, 1776. Date with 99 numerology. When you write out 13, it's 99. And don't forget, the United States of America equals 99. And that's not arbitrary because the United States of America was named as such on September 9th, 1776, 99. And again, 13 colonies, 13's 99, 13 stripes, 13 years of public school programming. So, but yeah, just the same stuff over and over. And yeah, when you learn this knowledge, again, you can just really put it together. You can be like, okay, I already saw the ground zero thing. I already saw the building 1, 2, and 7 thing, but what's it all about? Why building 1, 2, 7? Why December 7th? Those are the kind of questions I had once upon a time. Then when I figured this out, I was like, oh my God. Well, I guess this is what's up. I guess it all makes too much sense. And I think one thing that I haven't said all this time that should have been said is, in the most pure cipher, false flag is 33, right? Pirate is 33. And this isn't arbitrary. This is where the terminology of a false flag comes from. If you don't know what a false flag is, it's where for a military or political strategic purpose, you create something terrible and then you blame it on your enemy because you want to destroy your enemy. So back in the day, pirates, they'd fly a false flag of a rival gang or some other power, and they would do something horrible, and people would see the flag on the ship and be like, oh my God, that was done by these people, but it wasn't really done by those people. It was done by imposters. And so anyway, pirate and false flag, they're both 33. Now, why does that matter? Because the Knights Templar, who at the end of the Crusades secured this knowledge of Kabbalah and brought it back to the Vatican, or the, Catholic headquarters, whatever they called it once upon a time, pre-English. They brought back this knowledge, and that's how the Cabal started, because this knowledge spread through the elites, and I guess at the choosing of the people of the church, or however information leaks and spreads out. But the Knights Templar, for a period of time, were booted from Europe, like how their leader got crucified on Friday the 13th in Paris, France. But the Knights Templar, they had to flee, and they took to the seas, and a lot of them became pirates. And, Masonry, Knights Templar, all this stuff is interlinked, and it all goes back through Solomon's Temple and this old knowledge that was in that region of the world, and probably other places. It gravitated there. It was found there. It might have come from other places, but it was documented there and obtainable, So anyway, Masonry 33, Secrecy 33, Order 33, Federal 33. You had this Bonesman in office, George W. Bush, Masonic Order at Yale. And again, false flag 33. And from 1968 to 2001 was 33 years later. And don't forget, 68. Terror equals 68. And 94, the World Trade Centers opened April 4th, 4/4/1973. Construction began in 68. They opened 4/4, the 94th day of the year, 1973. No doubt built for this planned ritual. September 11th, 2001 was a date with 41 numerology. 41. They blamed it on Al-Qaeda. 41. They said the majority of the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, our ally. 41. Known to some as the 51st state. Israel also gets that name. Of course, you had the dancing Israelis in New Jersey. Why'd they choose New Jersey and not New York? Because New Jersey's 119. Like Orthodox. Like Star of David. Like All-Seeing Eye. Merkaba. 119. So, check this one out too. You have to watch the screen. I just got to do it in silence. Whoops, I can't type. You see the 74? Again, don't forget. But you see the 74? There's numerology rules you can use for the master numbers. 11, 22. Check this out. When you use the numerology rules for this special protected group, it sums to 119. Thank God, we had Ehud Barak, the former prime minister and military leader of Israel, go on live TV right away and tell the United States to declare a war on terrorism against Afghanistan and Iraq. So the protected group knows best. Who dare question the protected group? You want to keep your YouTube channel, son? You better not question the protected group. What's wrong with the question? If people were from the protected group, I'm hoping that's the new terminology that's acceptable for YouTube. The people from the let me see if the camera's working. Okay, good, it's working again. This camera, it freezes, it drives me nuts. But anyway, the people from the protected group, people always accuse me of being in the protected group. I do admit, I do look a little bit like I'm in the protected group. But if you saw my parents, it's weird. You saw my parents, I look like my parents, but they don't look like they're in the protected group. Just somehow their genetics, my mom's nose, and anyway. But if you saw my mom, you wouldn't think she was in there, because she just, yeah, anyway. I got a cousin that has the exact same nose as me. She's a little bit younger than me, female, long blonde hair, big blue eyes. Because there's a lot of Norwegian in me, but my dad's native, so that's why my skin's the color it is. But anyway, these protected group people, they've taken down 18 of my channels. Think about it. If I was in the tribe, you think they'd keep taking down my channels? It's not the way it works. But anyway, the story is, and it's a factual story that was put out in the same mainstream media that would advertise, coming soon in that movie theater voice, Glass, January 18th. Anyway, the media put out the story about the dancing Israelis who were arrested in New Jersey, who were filmed documenting and celebrating the attack, and then they went back to Israel and they went on their own TV and said they were here to document the event. That means they had foreknowledge. Israel, nation that we pay the tab for, And then we don't realize what's in the Talmud, right? Can you even say that anymore? What's in the protected group book? What's in the protected group book, I mean? It says the people in the protected group are God's chosen people, and everyone else is not in the protected group, and only the protected group gets to make the rules and enforce the rules, because the non-protected group are a bunch of cattle or sheep or whatever character you more identify with in George Orwell's Animal Farm. So Osaka Tower, they sock it to us, don't they, True Seeker, with the mockery. They think, what, they're right. I was going to say, they think people don't know history. Right as I was about to say that, I was like, they don't know history. What percentage of the people who went out and saw this Marvel movie connected the dot here? What percentage of people said, oh, Japanese name, Pearl Harbor Day, New Pearl Harbor? I mean, it's all right there for the person who pays attention. Labeled as the conspiracy theorist, schizophrenic, crazy person. Oh, I can't hang out with you anymore person. That's how it is, right? That's how it is. So many of you think, man, if I tried to introduce Osaka Tower, Pearl Harbor Day, New Pearl Harbor, even though it's all information that exists in the world, you're like, I don't want to do it because I'm just going to be met with fierce rejection, right? Let me see. Let me see what's up with the chat. Talk about horse racing. I cater to a lot of audiences. Funny, man. Let's see. All right. I was just seeing what's going on in the chat. It doesn't look like... it looks like everybody's ready to go to bed. we can wrap it up there, True Seeker. Yeah, book burning, it's a real thing. Again, just on the point about book burning, I keep this up here because once upon a time, if you would have clicked this link, it would have took you right to my book, Darn, this item is no longer available. And I guess because it's relevant, and because I love the chosen people so much, Etsy, when they banned my book, they banned it on March 15th, which is the 74th day of the year. It's the Ides of March. Here it is, March 15th, 74th day of the year, right? My book banned on March 15th. Since March 15th, this link has not worked. It said this. My book was... Etsy would not disclose what in my book violated their terms of service. Called them multiple times. Nobody would tell me. Sorry, we don't want to say that. We just want to say that it violated our terms of service. I said, can you tell me what sentence the problem is with? And eventually they gave me this huge long blurb of things that it could be. And one of the things in this paragraph of BS was questioning the Holocaust. So I was like, okay, my book does question the Holocaust. So I have been removed from Etsy for questioning the Holocaust. They wouldn't. I asked them to specify, though, even after they gave me that. I wanted to know what sentence was the problem, and they wouldn't do that. Just that big blurb of things that could be a violation. But anyway, Etsy is run by the chosen people, and they are headquartered in Brooklyn, New York, which has more chosen people probably per capita than any neighborhood even outside of Israel, maybe anywhere in the world. So, you see how Brooklyn, New York equals 223? Shh. We got to be quiet as we type these words in. There's a verse in Revelation 29:3839. Revelation, a letter written to the Church of Philadelphia about the people who pretend to be the chosen people. They pretend to be the protected group. And their name in the Bible is the synagogue of Satan, those who are liars. This letter's written to the Church of Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia's 223. The synagogue of Satan is 223. And again this year, August 11th, 118, Tisha B'Av. A lot of rituals went down around the world that weekend. Tisha B'Av, Epstein dies by the numbers. Oslo shooting by the numbers, synced up with the Ides of March shooting March 15th by the numbers in Norway. And by the way, if you were following this work, we said circle the date March 15th before it came. We figured that date out from the October mega bomber scare stories. That story was coding the date March 15th, and we were already looking at the dates of Tisha B'Av from coding even prior to that, the month earlier, September. Then when the mosque shootings had happened in New Zealand, we saw how they encoded 223 and Tisha B'Av numbers. And then you ended up getting, again, the mosque shootings in Oslo on Tisha B'Av, August 10th, the day before August 11th, where the name of the mosque equaled 118. And again, all this stuff synced up. The same repetitive use of a certain group of numbers, which is right where we began. So, Glass, paying tribute to September 11th, which paid tribute to Tisha B'Av, which paid attention to the destruction of the temples. And now modern history has the site of the temples at Temple Mount, this contested area. And again, you got shows like Dig, which are about a Zionist plot to blow up Temple Mount to build the third temple. And, Dig, you dial 811. So there's going to be many more August 11th dates to come, including November 8th. And it's obvious that they are coding this number. Those of us who are following what's going on and seeing that this is undeniable, that they keep coding this and doing these rituals. Remember the Poway shooting? They put out a fundraiser to raise $118,000. Really? $118,000? Again, destruction of the two temples, Jewish history, Tisha B'Av, 118 this year. Anyway, this movie did not come out on this date by accident. This is not how things work. Things do not happen by accident in this world when it comes to media and Hollywood and government. These are powerful people in secret societies operating by a Kabbalistic code that is exactly what we're talking about in each video, as we have been for 6 years. And what I need to do, Truth Seeker, is figure out a way to get more people action-oriented. Closing words here. I need to figure out how to get more people oriented, doing acts that we can do in big numbers from where we stand, which sadly is in front of our computer. We do need to pound the pavement, but even before we pound the pavement, maybe we can get viral awareness about a campaign. We need to come up with like a list of 5 really important things that we need to do as people. Not a long list, something that almost fits on a bumper sticker. 5 things that we need to unite for as humanity in this world. And one of those things needs to be getting rid of fascist government, which we live under. I mean, 5 serious things. Not like, oh, we need to start, using less water in the shower, which is important too. Actually, maybe that could even make the list of 5. Just being more, conscious about the resources of the world. You go to a city like Phoenix where they're drinking all this recycled water with all this white crap. You're like, is this good? Would we have to be doing this if we weren't so wasteful? And anyway. But in all seriousness, a group of people need to decide, like, what are 5 things that really resonate and everyone can agree to, that we can start doing as people, from getting rid of fascists to behaving more responsibly. And with the website that's going to launch soon, again, putting an investment into building a nice website that will be able to host. From what I understand, if the website surges and takes off, I'm going to have to pay more per month, but there'll be no lag time. So like this website can't be overloaded. I want a website that functions at a professionally, like what people expect, like Facebook. But it not be Facebook, not be about cat videos and selling advertising stuff. None of that. It's just going to be about people who see what's wrong in the world, who want to share information in a safe place, network, organize, and figure out how to do smart activities. Like, I'm just imagining, like, imagine that in time it grew to be 1 million people, right? And goals were put out, like, for the day. Maybe there's some horrible propaganda in the world that people need to wake up to what's really going on. Like, what if right now, this isn't the most important thing in the world, but what if like 1 million people just help share this information about this movie? And seriously, I don't encourage Hollywood and watching movies and stuff, but if you watch them from a, investigative perspective, which is what I do, and something I hate to say, I didn't have cable television for over 10 years of my life. I got cable, and this was a weird synchronicity that happened to me in 2014, soon after, about 4 or 5 months after I started doing this work. It was the spring of 2014. And I was writing a blog post about Comcast. I can probably figure out exactly what day this happened. You see how correct my memory is here. This is the day it happened right here. April 10th, 2014. That's funny. That was, I think that's the 100th day of the year. But I was literally writing this post about what a terrible company Comcast is. And what's the gematria of Comcast anyway? I don't even remember. It's 74. That's probably, I was just probably writing all the list of the 74 stuff and just like, anyway. I'm writing about how evil Comcast is. And as I'm doing that, the doorbell rings. And it's a Comcast salesman, right? And the last time a Comcast salesman had come by was probably 8 months earlier. And for the last 10 years of my life, when the cable people came to the door, I was like, I'm not supporting any of that crap. And sometimes I'd even rant about things like 9/11 and how all it does is like, people didn't want to hear what I wanted to say, but I was just like, get away from my door. I don't want your sales pitch. I'll scare you away by talking about 9/11 and, what's on TV and why I don't want it. And anyway, this man comes to my door, and I say, dude, I don't know what you think about synchronicity, but I'm writing a blog post about how much I hate Comcast right now, and you ring the doorbell. And that made him laugh. So he didn't so I thought, it was like, oh, well, okay. He appreciates it. And he's like, well, why do you hate Comcast so much? And then I was telling him my problem with Comcast, and then I said, you want to hear something even more interesting? And then I told him about gematria, right? And just what I knew back then, which was only so much. I'd been studying it for, 8 months at the time. So I knew quite a bit, but nowhere near what I know now. And I was just sitting there, and he was just fascinated because, like, the whole holiday, Independence Day, all the 74 stuff. And I noticed around that same time that Kroger, the major food company that owns the majority of grocery stores, Kroger's another 74. 74 is just a monster number with these people. And they like that K, the master letter, 11. 74 breaks down to 11. But anyway, I was talking to that guy for literally over 2 hours. And at the end of it, he's like, man, he goes, I didn't make any sales tonight, but he goes, this was way more worth it. He's like, this is so interesting. I'm going to look into this. And I said, you know what, man? I said, because you listen to this and you appreciate it, and I said, even though I hate cable, I said, at the time, my lady had been wanting me to get cable because we had Netflix at the time, and but she wanted a little something more. She'd been asking me to get cable, and I was telling her why I didn't want it. And so I was like, okay. I realized if I got it, it would make her happy. And then I could also watch it for research purposes. And I was glad I did, because she'd be out there like watching these investigation, discover murder mysteries. And I'm learning about the patterns with 38 and death. And then it's like showing the fence post number 38 in this story about death. And I was like, yeah, this stuff is not an accident. This is like what they're doing. They're coding it in numbers. I couldn't even believe it when I first started. Just like, because when I first found it out, and just with eyes to see, I was like, God, look at how they just put it everywhere. And the way it was once upon a time, to tell you something about this 118 number, before I learned Jewish gematria, because again, when I first began, I did not know Jewish gematria, right? And I saw this number 118 all the time, and it was around tragedy, and it was another number they were putting on the TV, and I was like, what's it about? 118. And then when I learned Jewish gematria, I saw that death was 118. You know, do a web search for death in 118. Story about a rock star dying in from... There's a lot of 118 stuff. And then you learn date numerology and gematria, you just see how 118's everywhere around death. You know? When Vanity died, they coded 118 in her death, and I saw how it connected to Prince, and I was like, wait a minute, this was the 58th Grammy she died on. Purple Rain's 58. She was the girlfriend when Purple Rain came out of Prince, and I was like, we're going to be reading about Prince probably soon. You better watch his ass. And then sure enough, Prince's death was synced up with Vanity's death. They died a span of 67 days apart, blood sacrifice 67, but 118 was part of that. And when Prince first died, even though I was already talking about 118, I didn't know reverse gematria when Prince died. I learned reverse gematria at the end of 2016. Prince died April 21st, 2016. But I already understood enough just with the first two ciphers in Jewish gematria that Prince, you know, he had these numbers of death that synced up with Vanity's death. So anyway, when I learned to reverse at the end of the year and I saw elevator, because I was just going back and going over work I'd already did, I was like, is there something to Prince dying in an elevator? And then when I learned reverse and I go, oh my God, it's 118 and 46, the numbers that I'm always teaching about with death and sacrifice. You know, sacrifice with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology is 46. Genesis 46 begins with sacrifice. Just because I'd studied the other ciphers for over 3 years before I knew reverse, I just saw how the reverse fit in so well with so many different things. You know, we always talk about how Jesus is 74, Gospels 74, Parables is 74, Messiah is 74, Cross is 74. Then you learn the Egyptian name for cross, Ankh, is 74. And the Greek way to spell Jesus, I forget what it is right now, but if you look up the Greek way to spell it, it's 74. The English translation of Jesus is Joshua, which is 74. But for years when I looked at that, and then when I learned reverse, and I was like, whoa, Jesus Christ is 74 as well? And again, you think about Jesus at 33 and how only the 33rd state sums to 74. That's when I started to realize that all over history, the numbers 33 and 74 were brought together again and again. Masonry's 33, Masonic 74. And I realized that it's about a ritual or possibly a form of spell casting, but there's a reason they bring certain numbers together all the time like they're ingredients. And yeah, if you're watching this for the first time and you've never read my book, you really should get it before it's banned again, because there will be a day when it is banned again. And for the time being, this is the one place that's keeping it up. Etsy banned it, and 2 other sites I've put it up on have banned it since. And I link this in the description of every video. But yeah, my book's nearly 800 pages long. I only charge $4.99 for it. And some people are cool. They well, anyone who gets the book is super cool. I love anyone who gets the book at $4.99. I'm just saying some people are extra cool, and they raise the price that they pay for, and I do appreciate that, because the book did take me 5 years to write. It's got life-changing knowledge, and again, it's nearly 800 pages, but you really only got to read the first 5 pages to feel like you got your money's worth. It's not like it's abundantly long because it's full of bullshit. It's abundantly long because it's full of information of stuff that takes time to explain and stuff that's really important. This is a big topic, so for my first book, getting the information out about the subject, I wanted to make sure, I dotted as many I's and crossed as many T's as possible. And like I say in the book, there's always more. That movie hadn't come out yet, Glass. And I wish it had, because I definitely share this information in the chapter on September 11th. But that's why in the future there'll be more books, and it'll be more concise. So, all right, Truth Seeker. I was going to stay on after 1:13. I stayed on for almost another hour. My goodness. Until next time, everybody, have a good night or a good day. Be back soon.